Deep in the void of space, humanity had always wondered if we were alone. That question was answered on a cold October morning when massive warships emerged from hyperspace, their obsidian hulls blotting out the stars above Earth's major cities. The Galactic Empire, as they called themselves, had arrived with a simple message: submit or die. What they didn't expect was our response. I remember standing in Times Square that day, watching the massive holographic projection of their supreme commander, a towering figure with iridescent scales and eyes that seemed to pierce through souls. The creature spoke in perfect English, explaining how they had conquered thousands of worlds, how resistance was futile, and how humanity would serve as their newest subjects. People around me were frozen in fear, some crying, others recording with their phones. But then something remarkable happened. A street vendor, an old man who'd been selling hot dogs at the same corner for 20 years, started laughing. Not a nervous laugh, but a genuine, belly-deep chuckle that spread through the crowd like wildfire. You see, the Empire had made a crucial mistake. They'd studied our languages, our technology, our infrastructure, but they hadn't studied our history. They hadn't learned about our stubborn resilience, our unwavering spirit, or our remarkable ability to unite in the face of common threats. They certainly hadn't watched our movies, where humanity had rehearsed this scenario countless times. Within hours of their arrival, something unprecedented occurred. Nations that had been enemies for generations suddenly found common ground. Old rivalries dissolved as humanity faced its first true external threat. The United Earth Defense Council was formed in record time, with military commanders, scientists, and leaders from every corner of the globe working together. The Empire gave us 48 hours to surrender. We used that time wisely. While they waited in orbit, expecting us to cower and comply, we were analyzing their ships' energy signatures, studying their communication patterns, and preparing our response. Our quantum computers worked overtime, decoding their transmissions, while retired engineers and young tech prodigies collaborated on weapon systems that could penetrate their shields. What happened next would go down in human history as the moment that changed everything. As their deadline approached, the Supreme Commander's hologram appeared again, probably expecting to hear our terms of surrender. Instead, they received a simple message from the newly formed Earth Defense Council. Thank you for the warning. Now it's our turn to give you one. Run. The confusion on the Supreme Commander's alien features was almost comical. They couldn't comprehend that a primitive species would dare to challenge them. Their sensors must have picked up our military movements, but they dismissed them as futile gestures of a doomed civilization. That's when we launched our first counterattack. Decades of preparing for various doomsday scenarios hadn't gone to waste. Hidden bunkers around the world opened to reveal experimental weapons we've been developing since the Cold War. Quantum-tipped missiles, electromagnetic pulse generators, and technology that even most humans didn't know existed emerged from secret facilities. But our greatest weapon wasn't our technology. It was our unpredictability. The Empire had conquered worlds by following the same playbook for millennia. They'd never encountered a species that looked at their overwhelming force and responded with defiance, innovation, and even humor. As I record this story years later, I can still feel the tension of those first moments when humanity stood up to the Galactic Empire. The battles that followed would reshape not just Earth, but the entire galaxy's understanding of what humans were capable of. This is the story of how humanity taught the most powerful empire in the galaxy a lesson they'd never forget. But first, let me tell you about the moment when we realized their biggest weakness. Their biggest weakness wasn't in their technology or their military might. It was their arrogance. While analyzing their communications, our scientists discovered something fascinating. Despite their advanced technology, the Empire's networks were surprisingly vulnerable. They'd never needed robust cybersecurity because no species they'd encountered had ever thought to hack them. Their confidence in their superiority had made them careless. I was part of the team that made this discovery. Working from an underground facility in the Swiss Alps, we've been monitoring their ship-to-ship communications when we noticed they were using a surprisingly basic encryption protocol. It was as if they were so convinced of their dominance that they didn't bother hiding their conversations. That's when we learned about their internal politics, their supply chains, and most importantly, their fear of the unknown. The Empire's society was built on strict hierarchies and predictable patterns. Every conquest followed the same steps: arrival, intimidation, submission, and assimilation. They'd never faced a species that refused to follow this script. More importantly, they'd never encountered one that could adapt and innovate as quickly as humans. While their massive warships loomed over our cities, we were already putting our plan into action. The street vendors' laughter in Times Square had sparked something. A realization that we could use their psychological rigidity against them. We began broadcasting seemingly random patterns of communication, launched decoy satellites that appeared to malfunction but were actually gathering intel, and moved our forces in ways that defied conventional military logic. The Empire's response was telling. Their commanders, used to dealing with straightforward resistance, became increasingly frustrated by their inability to predict our next move. We intercepted communications showing their officers arguing about how to handle the human problem. Some advocated for immediate orbital bombardment, while others warned that our unpredictable nature made such aggressive action risky. What they didn't know was that we'd already infiltrated their network infrastructure. Years of dealing with cyber warfare between nations had prepared us for this moment. While they focused on their impressive weapons and shields, we were quietly slipping through their digital defenses, gathering intelligence, and preparing for what would become known as the Ghost Protocol. The Supreme Commander's next transmission revealed their growing unease. "Your resistance is illogical," they announced to Earth's population. "We offer technological advancement, integration into the galactic community, and protection under imperial law. Why do you choose chaos over order?" The question itself showed how little they understood us. Meanwhile, in underground bases and hidden facilities around the world, human scientists and engineers were working around the clock, reverse engineering what we learned about their technology. We discovered that their ships' mighty shields had a peculiar vulnerability. They were designed to withstand enormous force, but had never been tested against the kind of asymmetrical warfare humans had perfected over centuries of fighting each other. I remember the moment we realized we could exploit this weakness. A young physicist from Brazil, working with a veteran military strategist from South Korea, developed a theory that would change the course of the war. Their idea was brilliant in its simplicity, but before we could test it, something unexpected happened that would force our hand. The Empire, growing increasingly frustrated with our resistance, decided to make an example of us. They targeted a small island in the Pacific, intending to demonstrate their power. What they didn't realize was that this would be their biggest mistake and our greatest opportunity. The island they chose was Vanuatu, a peaceful nation of around 300,000 souls. As their weapons powered up, targeting the pristine beaches and lush forests, they expected to demonstrate their overwhelming superiority. Instead, they revealed just how fundamentally they had underestimated humanity's preparation for this moment. Years before their arrival, during what we thought was just another UN climate initiative, we had secretly installed a network of quantum-linked defensive systems across the Pacific. These weren't traditional military installations. They were something entirely new, born from the combined innovations of dozens of nations working in secret. When the Empire's ships positioned themselves over Vanuatu, they triggered a response they couldn't have anticipated. The first sign that something was wrong came when their targeting systems began malfunctioning. The crystal-clear day suddenly turned misty, as thousands of microscopic drones, developed using technology from both military and weather control research, created an artificial fog that scattered their targeting beams. But this was just the beginning. As they adjusted their weapons to compensate, our Ghost Protocol went into full effect. The Brazilian physicists' theory proved correct. Their shields were calibrated to defend against direct energy weapons and physical projectiles, but they had no defense against what we called quantum echo technology. It was like trying to stop a ghost with a bulletproof vest. I watched from our command center as the Empire's mighty warships began experiencing system failures they couldn't explain. Their communications became erratic, their shield harmonics fluctuated, and for the first time, we detected something new in their transmissions. Fear, not just concern or worry, but genuine fear of something they couldn't understand or counter. The Supreme Commander, who had been so confident in their initial ultimatum, now demanded explanations from their technical experts. We intercepted their internal communications, watching as their rigid command structure began to crack under the pressure of dealing with an enemy that didn't fight according to their rules. But our advantage came with a terrible risk. The quantum echo technology was experimental, and using it on this scale could have unforeseen consequences. As we watched the Empire's ships struggling above Vanuatu, our sensors detected an alarming buildup of energy in their main reactors. If those ships lost containment while in Earth's atmosphere, the results would be catastrophic. The next few minutes would determine not just the fate of Vanuatu, but potentially the entire planet. Our technical teams worked frantically to adjust the quantum echo field, trying to find the right frequency to disable their weapons without triggering a reactor collapse. The Empire's ships hung in the sky like wounded leviathans, their crews caught between retreat and destruction. That's when we intercepted a transmission that changed everything. It wasn't from the Supreme Commander or any of their military leaders. It came from deep within one of their massive ships, from someone or something that identified itself as the Archiver. The message was brief but clear. They know what we hid. The prophecy was true. Those words sent shockwaves through both their fleet and our command center. What prophecy? What had they hidden? Before we could decrypt more of the transmission, the Empire's ships began a maneuver we hadn't seen before. Their hulls started glowing with an energy signature that made our instruments go haywire. As we prepared for what could be either their final attack or their retreat, we had no idea that we were about to discover the truth about why they had really come to Earth. A truth that would shake the foundations of everything we thought we knew about our place in the galaxy. In the chaos of that moment, as the Empire's ships pulsed with that strange energy, our quantum sensors detected something impossible, patterns we'd seen before, not in their technology, but in our own ancient ruins. The glyphs that archaeologists have been puzzling over for centuries in places like Göbekli Tepe and beneath the Easter Islands started appearing in their energy signatures. The Archiver's transmission hadn't been a message of defeat. It was a revelation. Through our compromised communication channels, data began flooding in, images, texts, and star charts that told a story so incredible that it took our analysts several minutes to comprehend what they were seeing. The Empire wasn't here to conquer us. They were here because they were afraid of what we might remember. Long before their empire existed, Earth had been something else entirely. The ancient structures we dismissed as primitive monuments were actually dormant technology, quantum anchors waiting to be reactivated by the right sequence of energy patterns. The Empire hadn't discovered us. They'd been watching us, waiting to see if we'd rediscover our heritage. As this realization dawned on us, something extraordinary happened in Vanuatu. The artificial fog of our microscopic drones began moving with a purpose we hadn't programmed, forming intricate patterns that mirrored the energy signatures of the Empire's ships. The quantum echo field we created wasn't just disrupting their systems. It was awakening something buried deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. The Supreme Commander's next transmission wasn't a threat or a demand. It was a warning. You don't understand what you're doing. They broadcast globally. The old technology was buried for a reason. Your species was reset for a reason. Some powers were never meant to be reclaimed. But it was too late. The quantum resonance between their ships, our defensive systems, and whatever lay beneath Vanuatu had triggered a chain reaction. Satellite imagery showed energy patterns spreading through the Earth's crust like awakening neural networks. Ancient sites around the world began emitting signals that our instruments could barely comprehend. In our command center, screens filled with data that seemed to defy physics itself. The Brazilian physicist, her hands shaking as she analyzed the readings, turned to me and whispered, "We're not just fighting an empire. We're remembering what we used to be." The Empire's ships started retreating to a higher orbit, but not before broadcasting one final message that chilled everyone who heard it. The sleepers were right. Humanity cannot be contained. May the stars forgive us for what we failed to finish. As their ships withdrew, we detected massive energy signatures approaching from the outer solar system. But these weren't reinforcements for the Empire. The energy patterns matched neither their technology nor the ancient signatures we were detecting from Earth. Something else was coming, something that had been waiting, perhaps for millennia, for this exact moment. The quantum echoes had done more than just disrupt the Empire's systems. They had sent a signal, a beacon that was now being answered. As our sensors tracked the approaching entities, we began to understand the true scale of the conflict we'd stumbled into. This wasn't just a war for Earth's independence. It was the beginning of humanity's awakening to a cosmic game that had been playing out since before recorded history. And deep beneath Vanuatu's waters, something ancient and powerful was stirring, something that would force both humanity and the Empire to confront the truth about Earth's role in the galaxy. The waters around Vanuatu began to glow with an intense blue light, spreading outward in geometric patterns that matched the ancient glyphs we discovered worldwide. What emerged wasn't a weapon or a warship, but a massive crystalline structure that rose from the depths like a cathedral of light. As it breached the surface, our instruments detected quantum signatures that made our previous readings look like background radiation. The approaching entities from the outer solar system arrived just as the structure fully emerged. They weren't ships in the conventional sense. They were beings of pure energy, taking forms that shifted between geometric patterns and what looked like enormous translucent whales swimming through space. The Empire's fleet, still retreating to the outer orbit, froze in place as if caught in an invisible net. That's when the crystalline structure began broadcasting, not in any language, but in pure information that our minds somehow understood. We weren't just descendants of an ancient civilization. We were part of a grand experiment. Earth wasn't our prison. It was our cocoon. The Empire hadn't defeated our ancestors. They had been chosen to watch over our metamorphosis. The truth hit us like a tidal wave. The Empire's fear wasn't of our weapons or our unpredictability. They feared what we were becoming. Each human conflict, each technological advancement, each philosophical breakthrough had been steps in our species' evolution. Our quantum echo technology hadn't just disrupted their systems. It had completed a cycle that began millennia ago. The energy beings, the observers as we came to know them, had waited for this moment. They were the original architects of the experiment, the ones who had chosen Earth as the cradle for a new kind of consciousness. The Empire's role had been to provide the final catalyst, to push us toward awakening our dormant abilities. In our command center, screens lit up with impossible data as people around the world began experiencing something extraordinary. The quantum resonance had awakened not just ancient technology, but dormant portions of human consciousness. Millions reported suddenly understanding complex mathematical concepts, seeing energy patterns, and feeling connected to a vast network of awareness that spanned the galaxy. The Supreme Commander's final transmission was different from all the others. Their voice carried not defeat, but acceptance. We fulfilled our purpose, though we never understood it until now. The cycle is complete. Humanity has remembered. But just as we thought we grasped the full scope of our transformation, the crystalline structure revealed one last truth. The energy beings weren't just observers. They were our future selves, reaching back through time to ensure their own evolution. The Empire hadn't been our enemy. They'd been our reluctant guardians, playing their part in a plan that spanned millions of years. As the structure's glow intensified, we realized this wasn't the end of the story. It was humanity's true beginning. The star whales, our future selves, began merging with the crystalline structure, creating a bridge between what we were and what we would become. The Empire's ships, their purpose fulfilled, began transforming too, their crews becoming part of the grand metamorphosis they had helped initiate. But the greatest surprise was still to come. As the quantum awakening spread across Earth, we discovered that our planet itself was more than just a cradle for our species. Deep beneath its surface lay the seeds of something even the observers hadn't fully anticipated. Something that would change not just our understanding of reality, but the very nature of consciousness in our universe. To be continued in Part 2, where we'll explore humanity's first steps into our new reality and the incredible discovery that would reshape the galaxy itself. The transformation that swept across Earth wasn't instant or explosive. It was more like watching a flower bloom in slow motion. The quantum awakening spread through humanity like ripples in a pond, each wave bringing new understanding. We discovered that Earth itself was a vast organic computer, designed to nurture not just our physical evolution, but the development of consciousness itself. As our awareness expanded, we began to understand the true purpose of ancient structures like the pyramids and Stonehenge. They weren't just monuments or observatories. They were nodes in a planetary network designed to channel and direct the Earth's natural quantum field. The Empire's attempt to subjugate us had actually completed the circuit, jump-starting a process that had been building for millennia. The Star Whales, our future selves, shared with us visions of what humanity would become. Not conquerors or subjects, but guardians of consciousness itself. The Empire's rigid hierarchy was dissolving, their species joining with ours in a metamorphosis that transcended physical form. Together, we were becoming something new, something that could bridge the gap between matter and energy, between time and space. What we found beneath Earth's surface wasn't a weapon or a spaceship, it was a seed. A genesis point for a new kind of universe, one where consciousness and reality were no longer separate. The crystalline structure that rose from Vanuatu was its first sprouting, a physical manifestation of humanity's potential reaching toward the stars. 5 years have passed since that day. The Empire's ships no longer darken our skies. Instead, they've become living archives, their crews working alongside humans to understand and guide our shared evolution. The quantum awakening continues to spread, bringing with it not just advanced technology, but a deeper understanding of our place in the cosmic dance. The street vendor who first laughed at the Empire's threats, he now teaches at a new kind of school, where children learn to see the quantum patterns that connect all things. His hot dog cart sits in the Smithsonian, a humble reminder of how humanity's spirit remained unbroken in the face of apparent doom. The Brazilian physicist and Korean strategist whose theory helped us discover the quantum echo. They lead a new organization dedicated to harmonizing human consciousness with the Earth's quantum field. Their work has shown us that what we once called impossible was simply the limit of our former understanding. As I record this final part of our story, I can see the crystalline spires that now rise from strategic points around the globe, each one a beacon of humanity's transformation. The star whales still swim through our solar system, their presence a reminder of both our destiny and our responsibility. The Empire's warning to run became humanity's invitation to soar. We didn't just survive their arrival, we transcended it. The first-time war with humans didn't end in conquest or submission, but in an evolution that none of us could have predicted. Tonight, as I stand under the stars that once seemed so distant, I can feel the quantum connection that links us all, humans, former Empire citizens, the Earth itself, and the vast consciousness that spans the galaxy. We're no longer alone, nor are we simply part of something greater. We are becoming that greater thing, one awakened consciousness at a time. This isn't the end of our story. It's barely the beginning. As we step into this new chapter of human existence, we carry with us the lessons of that first contact. That strength lies not in domination, but in transformation. That victory comes not from running or fighting, but from becoming something more than we ever imagined possible. The stars await us now, not as conquerors or subjects, but as awakened beings ready to help guide the next species beginning their own journey toward consciousness. After all, that's what the Empire did for us, even if they didn't know it at the time.